Good morning. We're ready now. We're going to go ahead and get started. We are recording this, so I know there's some people who could not be on here with us live, so we'll record it and send it out. Usually it's 24 to 48 hours that we can send that back out in a link. Hope everyone has had a great summer so far, and it's hard to believe that it's really almost halfway gone, that we're at the end of June, and most people are doing in-service, or teachers are coming back or something like that, or students coming back at the end of July. So a couple of kind of housekeeping things before we get started into the next guide. I think everyone has been muted just because of sound and things like that where everyone else is at. But if you have questions or something you want to bring up during the time that we're doing the presentation, just go into the chat or Q&A section and type anything in, and we will either answer them at that point or we'll answer them all at the end, just kind of whichever works out best. Also, I think you can raise your hand if you want. Is that right? You cannot raise your hand, Marinelle just told me. But if you have something that you want to bring up or you want to talk rather than just typing it in, let us know that as well, and we can unmute you at that point. And then also, I think our plan is to unmute everybody at the very end as well for some discussion. Have I forgotten anything, Marinelle?
Nope, you're good.
All right, we're good. We'll try to make this pretty quick, but I just want to tell you this is something that we're very excited about, the next guide. I think we sent out the materials to all of you an hour and a half ago. I hope you've had a little bit of time to look through them. A couple of things about the next guide before we kind of really get into the overview. Most, if not all of you, I think have had the chance over the last 2 to 3 incepts. You've noticed that Arizona Gear Up had what they called the launch guide, and that's where we got this idea of having a senior guide that you could have everything in one place that our students could start to use to prepare for colleges and careers. And basically what we did is we took their launch guide, and I'll give Marinelle a lot of the credit. So if you have the opportunity to see her in person or text or phone or email, please thank her for the time that she's dedicated to this, really over the last year that we've been working on this project. So we took the Arizona guide and made it into a Tennessee guide. And then we also think we made it a whole lot better as well. So we hope that you feel the same way. The resources that we provided to you this morning, a couple things. One is just this PowerPoint. So if you wanted to print it out in like a notes version, you could take notes as we're talking this morning. And then also the next guide itself. And then Shayla later during this presentation is going to talk about a couple of things about how you might involve parents. And then there's also, since Arizona's been doing this a couple of years now, they've kind of already put together their best practices or how they've implemented and used the next guide. So we wanted to share that with you as well. A couple of things before we get into the material itself. So right now our plan is that you will receive the actual next guides. I know that you all asked, or you all told Shayla and Elvin how many next guides you wanted for both your seniors and the facilitators or teachers or counselors that would be using the next guides with your students. So what you looked at that we've sent you about an hour ago is the draft version, but the final version is kind of at the place now that we won't be editing it anymore, but it may not be exactly what you saw there. We still know that there's kind of some cleanup that we've done since then, and grammar and spelling and things like that. We expect to get it to you. It will arrive at your high schools early in August. That version will have it'll be hard on the cover. It'll be spiral bound. It will have a front pocket. Back pocket. Thank you, Marinelle. And I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes.
I was just going to say the back pocket is a vertical pocket, not your standard.
Thank you.
And then do you want to mention how they'll be staggered upon the shipments will be staggered?
Good point. So they won't, as they're printed, they're going to be sent out. So there may be a school that will receive them one day, and there may be another school that will receive them 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, so that we're not waiting until they're all printed and packaged and then all going out the same day. They will all they will go out on different days at different times once they're ready. So if you hear from someone else, I got mine today, don't necessarily contact Elvin or something immediately and say, I haven't received mine. Just wait a few more days, and you probably will receive them at that point. I won't say at the same time, also probably a couple, before obviously they can be printed, before they can be mailed, there's going to be a PDF version that's going to already be ready. So I know some of you have already asked about having some that you could share with teachers or counselors or something like that before then. I still can't tell you exactly when that date is, but you're going to know that that's going to be prior to them being printed and prior to them mailed out. So as soon as the PDF version is ready, we will put that up on our website, and we will also send that out in email to all of you as well. That you could use with seniors, that you could use with faculty and counselors and administrators. That some people have said, we ordered enough just for our seniors because that's what our funding is for, but could we use this with juniors? Could we use this with a freshman academy or something like that? Absolutely you can. Again, that would just be a PDF version that you all would just print at your school and use it however you would want to like that. Next, just a couple of things. So again, this is something that we're very excited about and we've been working on for a long period of time for a couple of different reasons. One is what we found over the last couple of years that we've been doing is throughout the year, either we have been sending to you all or you all have been giving to students in kind of a piecemeal, here's information about FAFSA, here's information about scholarships, here's information about those of you that want to go into the military. This is a place to put all of that in one place for students. Another thing is, as you all know, especially when we talk about your FAFSA information, your TSAC portals, all of those have usernames and passcodes. There will be places in the notebook that they can put their personal information. There's also places in there they can put personal information that they would then use when they're building a resume that we build into this. Another reason that we're really excited about this is because of all the number of people at your school that can be involved in this work. So you've ordered enough copies for all of your students. You've ordered copies for several of your teachers. So what we want to happen is we've seen over the last couple of years is that the site coordinators have done a bulk of the college access and success work. Sometimes they've had a school counselor helping them, have 2 or 3 teachers. This really gives everyone that same basic knowledge about college access and success. It allows a lot more people at your schools to be involved in what we're trying to do rather than just you trying to take on the bulk of the work. As you all know, a lot of the success of this type of work depends upon relationships. And some of you have 200, 300, 400 students at your schools, and you can only have those close relationships with a handful of them. But there's another teacher, there's a coach, there's an ROTC instructor, there's a counselor, there's someone else that has a really close relationship with some of these students that you may not. And this gives them some of that same information about college access and about scholarships and financial aid, where they can kind of buffer some of that work that you've been doing as well. Another reason that we like this is that the way the next guide is put together, and we'll talk about each section in a minute, is we put it together to where it serves every student. So we all know that you have students that are going to community college. Those are going to 4-year colleges. But you also have students that are going into the military. Those are going into apprenticeship programs. Those that will have maybe they've obtained some certificates or credentials during high school, and they're going directly into the workforce. So the way we put this together is it really will serve all of your students, and I think that's something that all of your teachers will appreciate as well, that there's every student that you can think of, there's a way that they can use and implement and use this. The last thing that's on this sheet that I will mention on this first slide is we have a lot of other college access programs that we work with. TRIO types of programs. I know in Nashville and Memphis, there's other different types of programs that are specifically local to the school or to the school system. And it's a guide that we hope and expect that all of these different programs could use as well. So if they're meeting one-on-one with these students, or if they're just meeting with their upward bound students or something like that, they too could use this guide in the same way. So our focus is really to take a lot of this work off of you and to be able to share it in your school system. I would also add, so one of our hope is that with you all especially, this being your last year of Gear Up 2.0 and 2.0 funding, that the next guide will continue each year. So even though your Gear Up program and your Gear Up funding, this may be the last year, we will update it throughout this year. And so next year there will be another in PDF version that would be online. So your teachers and counselors and those folks that really get into it and use it this year, next year all they have to do is either go online and print it off or actually use it online with students, and you can continue to use it each year. Along those lines, one thing that I would just mention, well, 2 things. One is keep in mind that we've made this as a statewide version. So Advise Tennessee and Gear Up is kind of going to be the pilot with this, but there's going to be things in there that you're going to say, this isn't exactly the way it works at our school. This may be like graduation requirements or local scholarships or something like that we have. And, of course, the reason for that is because it's something that all the different school systems throughout the state that can use. That's the purpose of that pocket that Mary Nell talked about in the back. So if that you want to add things to it, that this isn't quite exactly the way it works for you, or there's something that's a little different or a little better or unique, then you can add a page to it by putting it in that pocket for you all to use. Along those same lines, if during the year you come up with something that you think would just be really great for us to include here that would apply to all schools and school systems throughout the state, please let us know that, as we will be going back and editing this for the next year. Right now I would just say send that to Marinelle, but if you send it to your regional coordinator and they'll forward it to her or something like that too. Again, there's probably nothing that we will change on this guide right now if you have wonderful suggestions, because it is so far close to being finalized and printed, but we're always looking for edits for next year. One of the things that I want you to think about next as we're going through this presentation, especially as Shayla in the last couple of pages is going to be talking about how you're going to use it as a resource, a couple of things that I want you to think about would be how are you going to get the next guide to your teachers or your faculty or your counselor or advisors, and how do you see them using it? Same thing for your students. I've had people that have talked about training teachers. I've also had people who have talked about with students, I would like to give it to them and for them to take them home, use them with parents, and then bring them back each day, or bring them back every time they're going to use them in advisory, or bring them back every time they're going to use them in their ROTC class. I'm okay with either of those options, but I just think that's what you need to think through. We know there's advantages and disadvantages to both. If you send them home with the students, you're starting to teach them that responsibility that we hear from all of our colleges a lot of times, that we don't need to be doing as much for them. Then when they get to college, they're not prepared to bring their textbooks and those sorts of things. We also know what's going to happen is when they go home, they may not necessarily come back. Sometimes if you're going to have 4 or 5 students in a classroom, it's going to say, I forgot mine at home today, or I left it in the truck or something. And that is an option. When that happens, of course, you could ask them to go online. They could pull out the PDF version, and they could just follow along that way, or print off the PDF version. But it wouldn't be their version that has their name and all their information in it. The other option is you can choose, I'm just going to leave these in the guidance office, or I'm going to leave these in the site coordinator's office, and they would come in and out and get them as they need to. Or a teacher that's going to be using them every single day, they would just stay in that classroom. That's up to you. As Shayla follows along sometime with some of the required services chart, and the way we've made the next guide is to where as you use them, they will help you accomplish a lot of those requirements. So think about, will your orientation be a great time to introduce these to your seniors and actually physically get them out to them, or when do you want to do that? How is a great time that these are going to be used on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, not just we've got, I was telling some people earlier, throughout the state we're spending about $100,000 on these next guides. The last thing we want them to do is just be sitting in a box somewhere in your office, or even giving them to students, and that's the end of it. If that's the case, they're not going to make a big impact. So how they're utilized is so important. I want to take just a few minutes and go through each section. I know that you all now have the next guides and you can flip through them. I just want to take a few minutes to kind of talk about each section, and then Shayla is going to start presenting about some best practices and usage and things like that. You'll see it's divided up into 7 sections: staying on track, college applications, the FAFSA and financial aid, scholarships, pursuing a future in the military, joining the workforce, and then finally after high school graduation. All right, first section, staying on track. This is kind of quickly talks about all the different paths that our students may take. I mentioned these briefly before. This would be 2-year school, 4-year school, technical colleges, going into the military, going into the workforce. Again, just from the very beginning, letting students know that this does pertain to you. It does address your needs, but it's talking about every single student. The second section is where students will start to put in their personal information. Some of this will be information that they would need for testing, for Tennessee Promise, for college applications, resume type of information that they could take it from there. And then if they had an English class or a work-based learning class where they were going to apply for a job or something like that, they could use that information there. It might include references or phone numbers and things like that. And then finally, it starts to have a conversation in section 2 about college fit. Exactly what are they looking for? Why are they looking for it? What meets their needs from a college and career perspective, and that sort of thing. Section 3 is where we start to get into financial aid. It covers some of the basics about your federal aid and opportunities there with Pell Grants and that sort of thing. Next, we get into state aid and TSAC and HOPE. A little bit in the scholarships on this section, but then the next section will cover a lot more. Finally, the information that they need. I know several of y'all have in the past year sent something out to students, kind of a half-page or a one-pager about information that they need to complete the FAFSA. So that information is already there, so they can show that to their parents, and then when they're coming in to your appointments, they know what to bring. And then finally, there's a section about the student aid report and what information is included in it and how to interpret that. Section 4 is just on scholarships. So this talks about the different types of scholarships, when and how they can do scholarship searches, where are the different locations they can go to do that, and then different elements of scholarships to help them prepare for it. This could be personal statements, scholarship types, recommendation letters, how to get those, who to get them from, those scholarships that have essays and speeches and things, where they are and how to prepare for them so they can have the best opportunities to receive those. Section 5 covers their military options. So this is everything from those students that plan to go to active duty after high school graduation, those that want to go to college and be in an ROTC program at the same time, those that are looking at being in the Army or Air Force or Navy Reserve at the same time they're in college maybe, or National Guard at the same time they're doing that. So the different types of military options cover different types of military websites so they can start to do some searches on their own, in addition to obviously talking to recruiters that come to your schools. And then finally, there's a section on the ASVAB, how it is, what it tests for, and then some of the test prep that they can do for the ASVAB as well. Section 6 is for those students that are planning to go directly into the workforce after high school. Ideally, we're hoping that those are students that already have some sort of credentials that they received during high school, because we know, again, that means more money for them. That's a better experience, better quality of life, that they're not going to be so high school to workforce is not going to mean an $8 an hour job, but a $12 or a $14 or $15 an hour job if they already have those post-secondary credentials that they were able to gain during high school, or if they've been able to work through some internships or apprenticeship opportunities or things like that with some of the local businesses and industries in your area. So in that section, it will also talk about resumes, job applications, again, using some of that information that they put in that second section that they could use here to make a resume. And you may have classes at your schools to where they could actually start to build and type their resume and use it. The last section, a lot of that is kind of focused on summer melt. So this is the after high school graduation, that June and July, August time period, that's creating that checklist of everything that they need to do before they start college. So this would be your orientation. This would be signing up for classes. This would be making sure that their account with the school works, everything about financial aid, applying for housing if that's necessary, whether it's a 2-year, 4-year school, even for those students that are going directly into the workforce, that there's a checklist here for them to make sure that they can do everything it needs to do. If you think about summer melt and the work that you do during June and July, this is just kind of that list of those items. All right, I think next we are going to unmute Shayla, and she's going to talk about implementation of the next guide.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you great.
Perfect. So I have the privilege of speaking to everyone about the implementation of the next guide. Specifically, I wanted to spend a few moments speaking to how it already aligns with your required services. We did a great job, in my opinion, of detailing that on the required services chart. So often we provide these great opportunities under the guise of we're not trying to create more work. But this time the difference is we showed you where the alignment was in a help to better articulate that we really aren't interested in creating more work, but aligning the services that we already provide or that you already provide to your sites. Additionally, as Dwayne has stated, it was our attempt to show you different ways to incorporate the community, the school community, and the good work that you're already doing. So I'll go through that in a few moments. Then I'll speak briefly about engaging your parents, and then I'll finish with best practice examples. And that's where I'll ask you to join me in a little discussion about how you think we could successfully implement this in your site. The reason why I ask for a discussion is because as you speak, I'll capture some of your ideas with an attempt to share it out across the state. That being said, I'm ready whenever you are, Mary Nell.
Okay, let me unmute everybody.
I can't go to the next slide.
Oh.
Perfect.
Are you wanting to just unmute it at this point, or is still muted?
You can mute it until the end when we get to the best practice share out. So briefly going through the alignment with the required services, I won't go over what each section focuses on. Dwayne did an excellent job with that, but I want to point out where the alignment happens. So section 1 specifically pertains to your orientation, your college visits to regional schools, and if you do choose to do any virtual tours with your students due to a decrease in funding, this is also where that section becomes valuable. On section 2, you'll notice that there is specific alignment with the Tennessee Promise application, your Tennessee Promise community service opportunity, and the college application. With the sections, they do a great job in providing the foundational work, and your teachers or your staff, other individuals that support the work you do, can use the material found in the book to help you track the progress that's being made with the Tennessee Promise applications, your Tennessee Promise service opportunities, and also service as opportunities for activities during College App Week. Next slide, please. Under section 3, which I think is pretty self-explanatory, it speaks to your Tennessee FAFSA Frenzy and any parent event that involves Tennessee FAFSA or FSAID. So one of the best practice examples that I would get to at some point soon is using section 3 as a homework, having your econ teachers or your government teachers use section 3 to get the FSAID prep work done so that when your students come in to your events, they're already ready. The teacher provides a grade for the student, so it helps them. The student gets considerably easy grade by engaging their parents. The parents have an opportunity to engage in their college access work with their students. So across the board, it can appear to be a win-win. I'm quite interested in getting feedback back from you all if any of you all pilot that activity. Next slide, please. Section 3, 4, and 5. So these sections align with existing services as well, such as your high school college transition activities, your college signing day, your career exploration, and your summer melt. An example for your summer melt is having students use the last section as a checklist or having printouts provided to your parents that they can put on refrigerators so that they know what students need after the section, after they graduate from high school. Next slide, please. Another reason why we thought that the next guide would be a great benefit is because we're asking you to provide professional development to the team of people that you work with. And so in an effort to assist you or support the ask, we felt as though the guide would be a comprehensive tool for you to use and employ in meeting the requirements. The two specific things that we're asking for is the FAFSA Team Workshop and the Gear Up Sustainability Workshop. Oftentimes, FAFSA completion is seen as either the senior counselor's job or the site coordinator's job. What we're trying to do is facilitate a culture where FAFSA becomes everybody's job. The job of a Gear Up site coordinator is to coordinate an effort. The beauty of that is if the effort is coordinated with or without federal funds, the project can sustain itself. So we see the next guide as a tool to assist with that goal. In an ideal situation, the principal or the project director helps the site coordinator to facilitate a workshop. In that workshop, you have your FAFSA team. That team would consist of your senior counselor, your project director, your principal, any other designated staff person, and your senior teachers. The senior teachers including your English teachers, your econ teachers, your finance teachers, depending on the structure of your school. During that time, everyone comes together to develop a FAFSA plan. The reason why this plan is so significant is we want students to complete the FAFSA. We don't want students to just submit the FAFSA. Submitting the FAFSA creates hurdles for the students and also the institutions that they end up at. So this is our attempt to be comprehensive, not only in the ask, but also in providing the resources to assist site coordinators to fulfill the ask. Lastly, the sustainability workshop. Dwayne spoke earlier about the importance of the sustainability plan. Reiterated here, The next guide is a toolkit for you to sustain the college access work that you do so well in the schools beyond the Gear-Up funds. So using this guide and providing training to your teams, you position folks to do college access work beyond the scope of their, beyond the scope of what they are accustomed to doing. What's more is we've heard from teachers that they want to help, but they don't necessarily feel that they have the capacity to help. So what does FAFSA mean? What information is needed? So again, the next guide provides a comprehensive toolkit to increase the capacity of the folks that are interested in helping and that want to help and that can help beyond the life of this grant. Next slide, please. One of the biggest things that we wanted to make sure that we gave an audience to was parental engagement. Oftentimes, people confuse parental engagement and parental involvement. We know in this community, the Gear Up community, we know that there's a difference. In our world, we don't believe that parental involvement is what we do. We believe in parental engagement. We know that when you say you're involving a parent, it's typically you're doing something to the parent or you're wanting the parent to do something. When you speak to engagement, you're speaking to teaching the parent, asking for the parent's feedback, and building a better community for that parent and that child. We're about parental engagement here. And as a result, we don't want the toolkit or the next guide to just be something that we send home to parents or something that happens to a family. We want their active participation and we want their feedback. We want them to understand that this is a guide that can be used to facilitate conversations between them and their child. We also want them to understand that this is a tool for them to become comfortable with an uncomfortable situation, such as going away to school, entering the workforce, or going into the military. So here we provide an opportunity for parents to study at their own pace, to learn of some of the nuances of going to the next phase. We all know that going to college is not an intuitive process. Entering the workforce is not always an intuitive process for some of our families, nor is entering the military. So this is our attempt not only to build the capacity of our teachers and our staffers inside of the school, but also to build the capacity of our parents so that we all are on the same page in what college access looks like. So the two ways that we are attempting to inform or introduce the next guide to parents is through a letter and through some feedback from other site coordinators. We learned that the letter might not always be the best way. So you also have the option of providing a condensed version of a postcard. And I believe Dwayne has already sent those out this morning. Is that correct, Dwayne?
I sent them out to sites in the, I didn't send them out statewide.
Okay, got it. Okay, so again, this is just a way to introduce the parents, and both of the formats you can edit to your liking and to make sure that they target the audience that you're trying to target. You know your schools, you know your parents better than we do. Our goal was to provide a template or the resource so that you wouldn't have to remake the wheel. And again, the example provided on this PowerPoint is from Arizona. Grateful for that. Next slide, please. So this is the slide where I'll kindly ask Mary Nell to unmute everybody. This is where the discussion takes place from us.
All right, everybody is unmuted.
Perfect. So I will start us off. I'm getting feedback. Let me put this down.
I think that's just the downside of everyone being unmuted.
Okay. So I will start us off by going through a couple of best practices from Arizona. And I ask that if you have best practices, as you're looking through this next guide, the PDF that you received, that you provide thoughts about implementation or how you see it working inside of your collaborative. Is that okay with everyone?
You sound like you're in a tunnel, but I don't know what we can do about that.
Oh, my. Maybe this isn't going to work for this webinar. Is that any better?
A little.
Okay.
Debbie or Molly, can you all say something just so we can see how we can hear you?
This is Molly.
This is Debbie.
Okay, y'all are pretty clear. Can you hear Shayla okay?
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, she sounds fine to me.
Okay, continue. Thank you.
Okay. In the past, you would do college plans, college completion plans, or some type of plans with your seniors. Typically, your counselors do as well. So Section 1 provides an opportunity not only for counselors but also parents to have one-on-one conversations with students about what's going to happen next. Another example would be in Section 2. Your the GEAR coordinator or your college team can partner with your English teacher and provide an opportunity for students to write down their personal statements for a grade using the information that's captured in Section 2. Another example found in Section 3, Arizona suggests using an econ class, but what we found in the state of Tennessee is Government Standards GC 6.3 and GC 5.1 lend themselves to the Tennessee Promise and also FAFSA completion. As you review the guide, do you see any other opportunities for implementation that are outside of the typical ways that we complete FAFSA, student applications, college applications, scholarship applications, personal statements, or FSAID applications? That's a question.
I think what all we have heard has been a good summary of what's taking place, and we've got some good suggestions for moving it forward. I like the thought of using the school faculty and engaging them. We have CTE teachers that did not go the traditional 4-year college route, but they have a wealth of information to share with students. So, to involve more faculty is definitely the goal that I'm going to try to reach.
Yes, I agree with Molly. You'll have to use different faculty members because the scheduling of the students would not allow you to use simply your English teachers. You have kids that don't have English until after Christmas. You have kids that do dual enrollment English.
Right.
So there's no way you could only use one teacher.
Right.
You'll have to use multiple people. But you'll also have to have somebody, such as the counselor, in one of my schools, that will sort of be sure that that's taking place and that, hey, our English teachers are aware that we're going to be doing a statement here, personal statements, that kind of stuff.
The problem with the personal finance thing is, in what schools are those courses offered? Is it 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade? Because
Right.
mine's not going to be all seniors. I can promise that. And it's just going to be a different look at every school, I think.
I agree, and I also, one of the reasons why I like the book so much is that it lends itself to whatever implementation looks like for your school.
Yes, I 100%. It's just going to need to be intentional from day one, and I'm glad we're going to get those early in the school year so that we can begin looking at where those fit best.
Yes. We need them early.
Yeah.
We'll have time to get familiar with them. We can get them to the schools, let the principals know what's going on, let the counselors, and then set up a time. Actually, during countywide in-services would be a wonderful time to let the schools go ahead and get their hands on them, go over the information inside of them, and let each school discuss how they plan to utilize them in their setting.
Right.
So let me ask you this: even if we didn't have the bound copy, would we have a PDF copy by July the 20th, maybe?
Probably.
I'll just say I'm very hopeful that we will have a final PDF version in the next 2 weeks that we can distribute.
Okay. That would be good to have.
Just about everyone is doing their in-service the last week of July, so we're aware of that and pushing that we can at least have a PDF version by then for that.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't guarantee it because there's some things that are just outside of our control, but that's what we're shooting for.
While you're waiting on the official document to be released, think about the questions that started the presentation today. So how and when you can train teachers and others to use the guide, or how can different people use the guides in their work? Will your students take these home or leave them somewhere at school? And how will you introduce these to your seniors this year? I think by thinking through those questions and figuring out those answers ahead of time, you position yourself for an easier implementation once you get the guides in hand.
Yes.
Also, it decreases the amount of time that your early adopters have to spend thinking about what that looks like. Does anyone have any other best practice they would like to share or thoughts about implementation?
I'm just going to come from the counselor side and just say, if you go into this thinking that a counselor can be the person, then I would say very strenuously that you're probably not going to get a lot of implementation. They want to. There's just so many other things that fall on their plate. And so I think you stressed it well here, and I hope it comes through with others who will view this webinar, listen to it, whatever, that, definitely you want your counselors involved, but it just doesn't need to be their ball to roll,
Thank you for that. Well, if there are no more best practices or implementation ideas to share, I will turn it back over to Dwayne for our closeout and next steps.
Thank you, Shaylin. Thank you for all your feedback. In closing, I would just ask you to, again, to go back and look at those questions that we talked about in the very beginning and think about implementation and how you will use this. If you have questions or concerns or things that come up over the next couple of weeks, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will try my best to answer those questions. Earlier this morning, probably an hour and a half or so ago, we sent out this PowerPoint that you might use with faculty as you change it and that sort of thing during your orientation. We sent out a very draft copy of the next guide, but I wouldn't suggest that that's what you use later with your faculty, that you would wait on one that we have later. If you wanted to just share that with your principal or project director or something like that, that would be fine. And then either you've already received the draft letter for parents or draft postcard for parents. If not, those of you in West Tennessee will get that from Shayla shortly. That will be something, again, you can edit, make it your own, and send those out to parents. If you have other suggestions or ideas or anything for us, just let us know. This really is something that we're very excited about, and I hope you don't see it as something else you have to do, that you really see it as a resource that other school faculty and other people can kind of get behind and consider this kind of a collective ownership in your school of the college access and success work that you do. I think in the past it has at least sometimes, a lot of times, felt like that the site coordinator and counselor or site coordinator and one teacher was the one really responsible for all of this work. So we hope this is a tool that's really starting to spread that work out amongst many people at your school. So thank you very much. Again, we're recording this out, and we will send the link to you all in a day or two when we get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.